What's up, folks? So today we're going to be doing a different style video. I'm going to be giving some freelance advice and also talking about some advice that other people have given on Twitter that I saw, and I just wanted to react to it kind of raw and off the cuff just because I felt like I had some thoughts upon seeing it, and so did quite a few other people. So let's just jump into it. Here's the tweet on screen. It's from this guy, Ryan Hoffman, and he said, "It's okay to accept freelance projects even if you're not 100% sure you can deliver. You will figure it out." So now I think this statement actually holds a good deal of truth. It just needs a little bit more nuance. As a motion graphics artist or motion designer, whatever you want to call it, we work on quite a wide range of projects. Some of us might be working in a more niche style, and some of us might be generalists who work across a broad range of styles. But I think at the end of the day, everybody can accept the fact that, yes, we're working on many different types of jobs for many different types of clients. And especially over the course of your career, that will change many different times. And with that, there's always going to be new tasks and hurdles that you're going to have to overcome, things that you haven't done before. But given your prior experience, you probably have the tools to solve these problems along the way. And so the way that I was looking at this is, yes, probably in every project I take on, there's some small element of it that I'm not quite sure I can deliver on. But when I say I'm not sure I can deliver on, it's just something I haven't done yet. So I know, okay, I'm going to have to go watch these tutorials or this course, or ask my friend who's better at this particular task to, maybe give me some advice or point me in the right direction. Personally, I am not sure that I could deliver that in this very moment, but I know if I, do X, Y, and Z, I'll have the information I need to make the right decisions to, accomplish this task. I think where you get into trouble is when you get presented a project that the overall scope is just something you've never done before. Like, say you're a 2D motion graphics artist or a 2D designer, and then you get offered some crazy 3D product visualization project. And this is something you've never done before. You have none of this on your portfolio. You've never opened up Cinema 4D or Blender, and the budget is really nice, and maybe the client is somebody that you want to do work for and you haven't worked for in the past. It could be pretty enticing for you to kind of bluff your way into the project and say, oh yeah, I've done some 3D, it's just not in my portfolio. This is within my skill set. Just because you want the money or you need the money or you want to network and, get closer with this particular client. I think that could be a very tempting thing that people experience. I mean, I know, if I'm being honest, I know I have felt that way before when I see certain emails pop up in my inbox. And I think when I read the reactions to this tweet originally, I could see people thinking in the same way. You receive that email for that 3D product visualization project, and you just say, screw it, this is an opportunity for me to learn 3D. And I just think that's kind of a terrible choice to make ultimately. It's not fair to yourself, and it's not fair to the client because it puts you both in a pretty awful position. And that's the thing. And that's not to say, though, that it's not possible to pull that project off. Some people can do it. Some people are just masters at learning and learning on the fly. It is doable. But the fact that it's doable doesn't mean it's something that you should pursue, right? In a perfect world, you take on that project. The timeline isn't a huge rush. You have enough money from the client to get it done. Over the course of a weekend, you cram an entire instructional about how to do product visualization, and you deliver the project and the client has no notes and it goes perfectly, yada, yada, yada. You make a bunch of money and you ride off into the sunset. Job well done. Now that could happen, but what's more likely is that you try to cram that entire instructional over the course of a weekend. You barely get a quarter of the way through. You realize, oh, maybe my computer isn't fast enough to handle 3D. Okay, now I got to figure out render farms. Then you're, delivering stuff to the client and they're not happy with it. And they're giving you very specific feedback about what they need to fix on these products. And you don't have the technical know-how to make these specific changes. So now you're delayed and the timeline's starting to change. You're getting more stressed out. Now you're starting to lose sleep over this project. The client's not getting what they want. You're getting more stressed out. It just can start to compound on itself very easily. And this is something that if you don't have a lot of experience, you're not going to be aware of. I am speaking from personal experience. This tweet really, spoke to me because in my earlier years as a freelancer, You know what? I definitely screwed myself over 1 or 2 times. They were massive learning experiences for me, but I don't think it was something I had to go to. I didn't have a mentor at that time to kind of coach me through these experiences. And this is the advice that I would give to somebody who was in my position at that point in time. You're better off saying no to these projects or passing them off to somebody who is more qualified to take them on, and then opening yourself to something else that you're better suited for. It's always better for you to learn through a personal project or in your free time versus on the job, in my opinion. Yes, at the end of the day, we're all forced to learn on the job to a certain degree, but I just think it's so much less stressful if you're doing this stuff in your free time versus as a part of a paid client project. So let's go backwards a little bit, because I do think this statement is helpful to a certain degree for some people. You shouldn't let one element of a project that you haven't done before deter you from taking it. For example, I do a lot of product visualization projects, but I am not a great hard surface modeler. So when I accept these projects, I will look at the product that needs to be visualized. And oftentimes it's not something that I can personally model. Every once in a while it is, but oftentimes it's just not. They're too complex. And I know that I don't really have the skills to do a great job with that. So instead of rejecting the project, what I do is I contact somebody else who is a great hard surface modeler, and then I get a quote for that one part of the project from them, and then I pass off the modeling aspect to them, and then I just handle the texturing, rendering, the video edit, all that jazz, managing the client, etc. Or maybe you get offered a project that has a small fluid simulation within it, and that's just one particular shot. You have some X particles experience already. I don't think that's too much to ask of yourself to figure out that one particular technical issue, right? Like that shouldn't deter you from taking that project. There's plenty of resources online on YouTube or paid courses where you can learn about doing fluid sims in X particles or some other piece of software and use that to complete that one shot. This is why I found this tweet to just be a little bit stimulating, because something can be true but also false at the same time. There is always a little bit of a paradox with a statement like this. And I think the amount of replies and response that this tweet got is just evidence of that, because plenty of people agreed and disagreed for various different reasons. So with that said, I'm going to hop over to my computer and we're just going to go through some of the responses and just keep going for a little bit more. But those are my overall thoughts on this. With that said, let's move to the computer. So here we are with the original tweet. It's okay to accept freelance projects even if you're not 100% sure you can deliver. You will figure it out. 170 likes. I think this first comment here is kind of getting at what I was discussing before. Yes, to an extent, but there are times when the project scope is so large, complex, you might be doing a disservice to the client by taking on the work. I prefer to be honest and not oversell for the long-term health of the relationship. Exactly. So you might be thinking that you're doing the client a service by taking on this project and working really hard and long hours in order to get it done. But if things go wrong, and if Murphy's Law is true, they will go wrong eventually. Maybe you get it done a couple times, but eventually you're going to come across a project where it's just not going to go right, and you're going to be disappointing your client. And at the end of the day, you're going to be ruining your relationship with them, and they're probably not going to hire you in the future. Exactly. This guy's putting it a little bit more bluntly than I was. LOL, this approach can also get a lot of people who aren't as talented as they think they are fucked in the game. This works until it doesn't. And yes, I think that kind of sums up what I was saying. It's very easy when you're first getting started as a freelancer. Yeah, I think this resonates with me. Like when I was a couple of years in, I probably thought I was a lot better than I was. And sometimes a project comes in through the door that you really want, and you try to take on more than you can chew, and then you're stressed out for the next 6 months. Ed Brown was saying, seems like most motion design freelancers take several gigs concurrently, but that level of stress would kill me. Now, I think this isn't exactly what this guy was talking about. When I read this originally, I was very much thinking of it as creatively and technically you're not entirely sure about how to do the project, but you take it anyway with the understanding that you will figure it out. The other side of this, or not the other side, but another way you could read this is that you're just so busy with other freelance projects, but you're comfortable working long hours, so you accept an additional freelance project, even if you're not 100% sure you can deliver because you have these other projects going on. And that's what Ed is talking about, like taking multiple projects at once, being double or triple booked. Somebody else was also talking about this. I retweeted this original tweet, and then Ryan Summers kind of responded with that same take. So I'll read his as just kind of a response to that thought process, because I thought what he had to say here was good. Fastest way to get uninvited from working with a studio is double or triple booking yourself without letting someone know and then blowing a deadline. I've worked around all kinds of schedules in order to work with artists, project fees, or nights and weekend rates, where both sides know what's going on and have great communications back and forth. Also had people sign on and ghost only to find they were overbooked and never said anything. Yeah, I actually think this is a much more toxic way to read this tweet if you're as some sort of motivation for you to be overbooking yourself and taking on more work than you can handle. Now, this also resonates with me because there was a point in time where I would just say yes to everything and I was constantly overbooked. And just as Ryan says, this will eventually bite you in the ass. I have definitely, if I'm just being honest, I've definitely screwed someone over in a project because I was overbooked and I just couldn't handle it, and I didn't have the proper communication skills at the time to let that person know what was going on in my life and how we ended up in that situation. Now, this is never something that you want to be going through. It's terrible. Like I was saying earlier in the video, it's like if I had somebody there at the time when that project came in through the door who could like tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, this one isn't for us, kid. That would have been a very, very helpful experience to go through. But I was a freelancer and I work on my own, as a lot of us do. And I think that's a problem when it comes to working on your own, is you just don't have somebody, you don't have a mentor or a boss to tell you no or yes, or to help guide you through these kind of decisions. It's just up to you to make them on your own. And especially when there's so much internet content now these days about how you need to be working longer hours and putting yourself out there and trying to push, because if you push harder, you're going to have more success. It's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking you can just outwork these kind of situations. And that was definitely where I was at during that time. As I had this incredibly stupid belief that my ability to work long hours could overcome this kind of poor decision making, and that's just not the case. And Evan Abrams also responded. I thought he had a nice little response here. Bite off more than you can chew, now chew it, was my mantra in my 20s. I never blew a deadline or underdelivered, but I cleaned up after many of freelancers who did. Folks should read this as a warning. Too many will think they will chew through, then choke. Know your capacities. And yes, I think that's exactly what I'm trying to get at in this video. This guy, Mike Lambert, has a similar thought. From an artist perspective, I encourage challenging yourself. From a hiring perspective, the last thing I want is an artist telling me they can accomplish something that they're not actually sure they can. Please be open about what you're attempting versus experienced in executing. Communication is key. Jesus Suarez, who has a great Patreon, you should go check him out, says, yes, but also a quick way to burning a bridge if you cannot deliver, and this industry is very small, word spreads. Agreed. All right, so let's wrap up the video there. I think that sums up things pretty nicely. Let me know if you enjoy this style of video on the channel. I want to produce more freelance advice or freelance thoughts and ramblings on the channel. I think it's helpful to talk about the industry and what's going on as things are continually developing, especially with AI and new technologies and new ways of working that we're currently experiencing. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and I will see everybody in the next one.